peer mediation and student engagement. Part of the series, Good Communication with Nikan, and this is our topic for today.
Welcome to the Lawyers and Mediators International Show and Podcast by instantmediations.com, where we discuss law and conflict resolution topics to educate both professionals and everyday people. Catch regular episodes on YouTube, the Instant Mediations app, and anywhere you get your podcasts. Just remember, nothing in these episodes constitutes legal advice, so be sure to talk to a lawyer, as cases are fact-dependent.
Hello and welcome. It is our pleasure to be here again. I'm Natalia Łowska-Czajka, advocate and mediator from Warsaw, Poland.
Hi, everyone. This is Mac Pierre-Louis, attorney mediator and arbitrator, working throughout Florida and Texas.
Hi, and I'm Angela Miller, and I'm also a family mediator as well as a circuit court mediator here in the state of Florida.
And today we wanted to speak, the three of us, about the importance of educating on mediation amongst younger people. And Angela has a lot to say about it, and I would want you to start so that we can then ask you questions. So why at all mediation among the younger ones? Why not just to leave it to teachers? Why to give the power to children?
Okay. I'm actually a retired educator myself after 25 years of teaching high school for 21 years and 4 years in middle school. And one of the things I see is that students need mediation skills. It starts there at those ages because they are in, you could say, an adolescent turmoil when it comes to conflict and wanting to express themselves. And so teaching them a life skill that they will take beyond the classroom is essential. It's not only important as adolescents, but it's also important for students who are in teams, students who are doing group activities, students who plan to go to college, students who plan to have careers where they are talking or negotiating with others. So this life skill actually starts at a very important age and stage of their life. It also is teaching them how to socially accept differences and how to discuss those differences. And it is teaching them effective listening skills at a young age.
So, Angela, Dr. Miller, I should say, I recall that you recently got your PhD, right?
Yeah.
And so you're definitely a go-to person for this. And like you, I was a former teacher as well. I taught elementary school for a few years before I went to law school. Feels like a century ago. But I remember the conflicts that children would have. Okay, I remember the character education curriculum that we would have to try to help teach children good social skills and moral skills. When it comes to conflict, yes, I understand that you're trying to give children the skills they need that could then impact them for the rest of their lives as they go into society, a society filled with conflict. But practically speaking, how does this actually work with children? Because they don't know very much. And then and then when we say children, what, I guess, grades or window are you really looking at?
8th grade to 12th grade. And also you're looking at basically ages 13 to 18. Okay. This is where there's so much going on in their poor little heads and with their bodies and with how others view them. And it's a very difficult time for them psychologically. So teaching them self skills first on how to handle all this that is going on, and then putting them into use will lessen disputes. It's been proven that meaningful disputes are acceptable when done in a meaningful manner. And it's teaching that manner in which students need to learn how to disagree. Because disagreements are a part of life. But you can disagree without turning it into a dispute. And that's where the skills come in and the importance.
I understand that, again, back to empowering children.
Mhm.
That okay, to differentiate myself from you, I have not been a teacher, but I have been a scout leader. So I did for 12 years run a scout troop myself, and I encountered a lot of differences between little children in everyday lives in the scouting camps, and we needed to face them. And scouting is also all about empowering little children and elder children as well to be aware environmentally, but also socially, and to perform certain services. How does this concept of service fit into that? And what the idea is, who should teach children about this mediation?
Okay. I think mediators themselves have the skills to do this. I really wish that ADR would allow credits as for biases and for families for mediators being able to go do this. Because even going into a classroom as a presenter and talking about the skills that are needed and required to be a mediator is emphasizing to students themselves the principles that are needed in establishing an attitude that is more accepting. It also is teaching how to resolve resolution conflict. Um, I think there's a unknown reliability on teachers to establish these skills. But in actuality, it's a skill that students need to establish. We can introduce anything, but it's up to a student to soak it in and how to utilize it. For example, I feel like a bridge as an educator. I was given a curriculum. Students were issued their books. And I tell students, hey, you have to meet these requirements in order to pass this class or to receive this credit. Actually, I'm the bridge, I'm the mediator. I'm teaching them activities to get them through and to create ways for them to process the content of the curriculum. So I'm already mediating, and I don't even know that. So passing that to students is a great form of, think about when you've been put into little activities like think, pair, and share. That is mediating. You are utilizing skills that require you to resolve an issue, to meet a problem, or to complete a project. You are simplifying instructions that are being given. You are amplifying the needs and requirements in doing so. You are taking a text or a set of instructions and then regurgitating them and paraphrasing them into a context or a text that you can understand. And then along in the process, while you're paraphrasing, you're also expanding your vocabulary, because when you have group members who are influenced by this communication, they may require a different set of synonyms in order for them to understand a complex set of instructions. So all these things that are actually taking place in the classroom are already being done. You're introducing it to them, and these are skills that students take out of that classroom, which also are skills that mediators use.
Mhm. So, what are some examples of you know students helping students negotiate and resolve conflicts? And then where's the line? Where does this like go too far? For example, if there's something that involves physical violence or disagreements that go into gang territory, I'm pretty sure we're not gonna see this as the same kind of solution, right? So how far do we take it?
I think when we're talking about like these conflicts with kids, what we're looking at is, say they have a conflict at work and they want help with it. The primary thing to remember is kids rely on their peers for social and emotional support. So there's a comfort level there with getting advice from peers or friends or people that they trust, right? Another one is look at if there's a conflict with neighbors or roommates at certain boarding schools or in college. And then you have to look at conflicts with other teachers, with staff members, with parents. Anything that doesn't break a rule at school or policy or the law can be addressed in these leader peer understandings. And it's as simple as teachers looking at students who they see often take lead in a positive manner or a favorable manner and creating a leadership program that shows him how to utilize those skills they already have. They may not even recognize that they have these skills. Now to take those skills and those understandings and those abilities and formatting it. And for example, at a school that I taught at a high school, we created this program and students would meet who were leaders who had been through the program once a week. And if it was a problem that they could help another student with or a peer with, then that student would meet with their leader. And if the leader thought that more support was needed or more understanding, then they would invite them to meet with the board. So it was a resolution made that only had to be monitored and evaluated by a teacher or a sponsor who was instructing the program. Think about like football or those, they already have leaders. They have co-captains or they have captains. They already have this role. They don't even realize that they're in it. And it's a matter of now adding another title or a responsibility to them that they're able to manage in an easy format, in an easy way. And they get to add this to their resume. So this is an ability they're taking with them. Think about that. We're actually capitalizing on some of these kids' skills that they don't even know how to expand. So how these students are chosen is the biggest requirement before establishing a training program. How will you recognize these students? And the students have to want to be leaders. That's the biggest thing. They have to want this. They have to want to do this. In 1966, there was a peacemaker program. In 1966, okay, after civil rights, that was done in Europe and Africa, in the Middle East, in the Stan countries, in Asia. When they were watching all the political issues with civil rights in 1966, this peacemaker program was already established overseas. We were late to get it. We didn't get it actually until the 1980s, after we saw the success of the 1970s Quaker schools. Do you realize Quaker schools actually started this in America first? That's astounding. They're already a peaceful group, but they're looking at how they can take the skills that are already being taught to their kids and how their kids can develop. These skills can be developed into adulthood. And that's really what we're looking at with student engagement, is giving them skills that become lifetime skills. Students can constructively learn how to help their peers in resolving and preventing conflicts.
Bottom line.
And when we look at it this way, you mentioned that it is about identifying leaders. And sometimes we see natural leaders among children as well.
Mhm.
However, in order to understand the significance of this entire thing, you actually should educate the entire population, because if we only educate leaders on the role of mediation and how to mediate, but we don't educate children to understand what benefits it can bring, it will be just useless, because you will have qualified mediators among the leaders, but then you will not have receptive peers that will be open to actually use this solution. So how do you see it, or how have you seen it being brought up to like bigger groups?
What I've seen is like in elementary school, and Mac, I know you taught elementary school, if you can relate, when two students like in elementary school have a conflict, You sit down with them and you talk. How could you have done this better? What other decisions could you have made? We're teaching them these favorable communication skills already. Now, in middle school and high school, we can expand on that, on improving with increased empathy, with improved communication skills, with effects and efforts that go into satisfying and satisfaction of resolution. So we're really teaching students at that stage how to be moderators. Now, afterwards, we take them into college and we're putting them into programs with these principles that they've learned, which are about attitudes and values. We are expanding that without them even noting that, because there are definitely more biases that they're going to encounter at those older ages. One thing that I used to do with high school students is I used to take issues that were given to NATO that you can find online. You can even find on congressional.org were cases that, or even the Supreme Court, and I would remove how they were solved, how these cases were entered into for the resolution, and I would have students solve these problems, solve these worldwide cases, and they would have a week. So one, it taught geographics, two, it taught economics, three, it taught world issues and world problems and how these kids could look at that. Now, they're all coming from various backgrounds. And so when you look at solving world problems, you are doing so drastic, it's a drastic change to their mindset. Then we would look at how they actually were resolved or what resolutions were given and how that varied from what they had come up with. You'd be surprised with how good they are at thinking things through. It's coming to that agreement is the biggest issue, but that's also what we want from them, is coming to an agreement and how to talk each other through that agreement. It prevents conflicts from escalating into severe disagreements. Now imagine all of our kids learning this skill, even high school, and adapting that and then adopting that mindset. What adults they could be, because look at the adults that we're relying on as the next generation. They're already more accepting than we were. Now, how can they expand that and improve on errors or flaws that have not been fixed for 20 or 30 or 40 years politically? Look at how different that outcome could be.
Yeah. No, I mean, speaking about leaders and seeing this as a leadership skill that we're trying to establish
Mhm.
in the young, in the next generation. We recently had a speaker, uh, Reverend Tope Papuala. He was one of Dr. Manuso's guests on her podcast in her series, and he made the comment basically that went along with the line: the system or the environment produces the leaders that reflect it.
Mhm.
That it produces the kind of leaders that the environment, that it reflects the environment that they come up from. And so if you have a child who's brought up in a certain dysfunction, well,
Mhm.
soon enough, that child's going to be reproducing the same kind of, maladies in the next generation. And so if we have not in this country had a really good, robust, curriculum across the nation to help children learn how to problem solve and how to resolve conflicts amongst themselves, then there's no surprise that when things come up, the next generation, you're going to see it. Like, I do family law mainly, right? And I remember the children in my classroom suffering because of the conflicts of their parents. I was a young teacher seeing that. Now I'm a lawyer. I'm in my 40s, and can see how the same
Right.
dysfunction follows into the next generation. And now these children back in the early 2000s who now have kids themselves, but still do not know how to resolve conflict in a way that's not going to create destruction. This is why this need is so necessary, is there. This is why the need to have peer mediation, school mediation, and the skill set to be, um, is spread around is so important. So I thank you for the work you're doing and your work on the ground and how you're trying to help engage other people. I guess my last question would be why? What's in this for the mediators? What's the benefit for us professionals who are in conflict resolution?
The community aspect. It is the community. We are dependent, whether we like it or not, on the generations that follow us. Don't you want those generations to be equipped with these resolution skills so that they can lessen the conflicts that our generation has endured, or the generations before us? When we keep saying history repeats itself, no, problems repeat themselves, but resolutions should change with each generation.
This is a very wise statement to close us up. I just wanted to emphasize that in a way, this is also educating your prospective clients. Because if they understand the role of mediation, they are likely to come to you to do a mediation for them when they encounter certain problems in their real life when they grow up. So,
Exactly.
having said that, thank you so much. And let us see you in the next episode.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I love joining you.
All right, guys. Until next time, you can check out Dr. Angela Miller's series on lawyersmediators.org/Angela Miller. All right, until next time.